For most of the Star Wars saga, Obi-Wan Kenobi is treated as an underdog. It's not because he's simply weak or he lacks skill, but rather it's because he exists in the shadow of someone far louder and more powerful. From the very beginning, the Sith were never watching Obi-Wan, they were watching Anakin Skywalker. And nowhere is that more apparent than in the mind of Darth Sidious. Sidious built his grand design around prodigies, potential, and overwhelming power. He fixated on the Chosen One so completely that Obi-Wan Kenobi became invisible to him, dismissed as a quiet, traditional Jedi, one who would never matter on a galactic stage. I can confidently say that this dismissal is one of Palpatine's greatest mistakes, because time and time again when Palpatine could have stepped in, when he could have eliminated Obi-Wan personally, decisively, he chose not to, and every time he made that choice, Obi-Wan persisted. Obi-Wan Kenobi not only survived multiple Sith apprentices, he survived the Great Purge, and he later shaped the future. In the end, Sidious was forced to do something he almost never does. He acknowledged the threat only after the damage was irreversible. In this video, we're going to break down Palpatine's reaction to Obi-Wan Kenobi's death, and why that reaction matters way more than it seems on the surface. When you look closely, that moment just doesn't tell us Palpatine and what he thought of Obi-Wan in the end, but it exposes how he always viewed him, as a minor player, an inconvenience, someone never worth direct intervention. And yet, buried in the Emperor's words is something rare, something almost unintentional, proof that in the coded language of the Sith, Sidious ultimately acknowledges the truth, that Obi-Wan Kenobi was a thorn in his side for decades, and that his quiet persistence had a real, lasting impact on the galactic stage that Palpatine never considered. But before the holocron opens, I have an exciting announcement. I'm looking to bring on a brand new editor in a paid position here at the channel, so if you love the lore and you love Star Wars, then reach out in the email in the description with some of your work if you'd like to join our team. But now, my friends, the holocron awaits. From the very beginning, Sidious was never watching Obi-Wan. He was watching Anakin. This distinction is important because Palpatine's entire worldview is built around extremes. He measures worth in raw potential, in volatility, in power that burns bright and violently, prodigies, anomalies, weapons. This is what he cultivates. But Obi-Wan Kenobi, he doesn't fit that profile. Obi-Wan is disciplined, traditional, quiet. He is a Jedi who did things by the book. In the mind of a Sith, these traits make him predictable, replaceable, and ultimately harmless in the long term. So when Palpatine sent Maul to Naboo, Obi-Wan was never the true objective. Qui-Gon Jinn was the threat. He was the unorthodox Jedi, the Jedi willing to defy the High Council, the one who saw Anakin for what he truly was before the Sith could fully close their grip. But Obi-Wan was only collateral, and when Maul succeeded in killing Qui-Gon, Sidious considered the problem solved. The Padawan was allowed to live. This decision isn't mercy, it's a clear dismissal. From that moment, Obi-Wan existed in Palpatine's blind spot. As Anakin's master, he was tolerated. As a Jedi, he was underestimated. As a long-term factor, he was barely considered at all. And this is the first mistake, because while Palpatine was shaping the future around Anakin, Obi-Wan was quietly positioning himself to endure it. From the perspective of Palpatine, Obi-Wan Kenobi was never meant to be eliminated. He was meant to be useful. Palpatine did not want Anakin Skywalker trained as a Sith initially. He wanted him trained as a Jedi. The Emperor understood something the Jedi never did. Power that is restrained grows resentful. Talent that is judged becomes bitter. A prodigy forced to suppress his nature will eventually turn against the very institution that claims to guide him. So Palpatine allowed Obi-Wan to remain at Anakin's side. In his mind, Obi-Wan's calm discipline and adherence to tradition would do the work for him. Obi-Wan would teach patience to a boy incapable of it. He would enforce restraint on someone born to excess. And in doing that, he would slowly suffocate Anakin's sense of belonging within the Jedi. This is the strategy of Sidious. Sidious believed Obi-Wan would fail Anakin in exactly the right way. He expected Obi-Wan to become another symbol of Jedi limitation, another reminder to Anakin that the Order would never accept him, another source of quiet frustration that could be cultivated and weaponized. And for years, it worked. Anakin grew more powerful, but also more alienated. All the while Sidious stood in the background, guiding events just enough to let resentment take root. But what Palpatine never accounted for was the way that Obi-Wan grounded Anakin rather than break him. Obi-Wan did not dominate his student. He did not exploit him. He did not try to mold him into something unnatural. Instead, Obi-Wan offered loyalty, consistency, and trust. To Sith, these qualities are meaningless, but to the Jedi, and to Obi-Wan, they're everything. And while Sidious believed Obi-Wan was quietly sharpening the knife that would turn Anakin against the Jedi, Obi-Wan was doing something more dangerous. He was giving Anakin something worth remembering. Sidious thought Obi-Wan was helping him dismantle the Jedi from within, but in reality, Obi-Wan was becoming the emotional anchor that would one day threaten the entire Sith design. And then came Mustafar. Raw power was on the side of the Chosen One. He had embraced the dark side. Obi-Wan Kenobi was disciplined, but he was ordinary. To the Emperor, his survival was laughable, so Sidious allows it to play out. But what happens on Mustafar exposes a flaw in the Sith worldview. The Jedi that arrives to Mustafar is different. He is not divided. He is not confused. He has not arrived chasing power or revenge. He has arrived with purpose. Obi-Wan Kenobi is not a general. He's not a representative of the High Council. He is not there to debate. He is there to end the Sith. But Vader, by contrast, is fractured. He's unstable, consumed by rage, drunk on his own ascension. Sidious believed potential would decide this outcome, but the Force responds to clarity, not excess. Obi-Wan Kenobi is aligned. This is the moment where the Sith Grand Design takes its first irreversible wound. From this point forward, Vader understands something that Sidious does not. Vader knows Obi-Wan Kenobi is not just another surviving Jedi. He has faced him directly. He has felt the difference. He has seen how the Force answers him. To Vader, Obi-Wan is no longer an inconvenience. He is a threat. Where one Sith sees an underdog, Vader sees the man who has shattered his ascension and left him broken on the banks of lava and ash. Where Sidious dismisses Obi-Wan as yesterday's problem, Vader recognizes him as unfinished business. What makes this even more fascinating is that Palpatine was not blind to what happened on Mustafar. In The Rise of Darth Vader, the Emperor actually addresses the duel directly. He does so in the most Sith way possible. As a rebuke to his apprentice, Sidious explains that Obi-Wan went to Mustafar as a Jedi of the old tradition, not divided or chasing vengeance. He went with one goal: to destroy Vader. Sidious makes it clear that this clarity is why Anakin lost. Not because Kenobi was stronger, but because Anakin was fractured and Obi-Wan was not. Sidious is able to articulate exactly what made Obi-Wan dangerous on that day. He understands that focus, restraint, and alignment with purpose have allowed Obi-Wan to defeat someone with vastly greater potential. But instead of seeing this and becoming cautious, Sidious uses it as an insult. Mustafar is not a warning about Obi-Wan, it's evidence of Vader's failure. This is his hubris. Sidious can explain Obi-Wan's effectiveness, but he cannot accept that it represents a lasting threat. To truly register as dangerous in Sidious's mind, power must be legendary, bombastic, overwhelming. Figures like Windu or Yoda, they force his attention. They disrupt his plans directly. But Obi-Wan doesn't do that. By all accounts, Obi-Wan Kenobi remains to Sidious, an average Jedi. But this is why Vader understands the threat. One learned of Mustafar. After Mustafar, something strange happens. Sidious does not encourage Vader to hunt Obi-Wan. In fact, he does the opposite. Palpatine attempts to break Vader of his obsession. He discourages him from pursuing his former master. He reframes Obi-Wan not as a lingering enemy, but as a distraction, a weakness, a tether to a life that should already be dead. But Obi-Wan is not just another Jedi to Vader. He is Anakin's past. Sidious understands that Vader's hatred of Obi-Wan is not clean. It is not strategic. It's emotional. And as long as Vader is consumed by Obi-Wan, he is still defined by Anakin, still unable to fully step into the Sith identity that Sidious wants him to embrace. This is how Kenobi is a threat even in absence to the Emperor. Vader does not see him as a relic. He is unfinished business, the one Jedi who truly bested him. But Sidious is infuriated. A Sith is not defined by their enemies. He should transcend them. And as long as Obi-Wan matters, Vader hasn't transcended anything. But with this, Palpatine makes a catastrophic miscalculation. He assumes that removing Obi-Wan from Vader's focus removes him from the game entirely. He doesn't consider that Obi-Wan's greatest impact is yet to come. In Obi-Wan's endurance, the seeds of Sidious's ultimate failure are quietly planted in the sand. Luke becomes a threat because Obi-Wan is there to guide him, to contextualize the Force, to frame the Jedi not as rulers or generals, but as guardians. If Palpatine had intervened at any point, if he had escalated once, even in the Age of the Empire, if he treated him more than a relic, with Vader he wouldn't even have to have done anything. But again, he makes a mistake. By the time we reach the Emperor's throne room, the game is already lost. The Death Star looms outside the viewport, the Rebel fleet closes in, and Palpatine believes he is standing at the final, inevitable victory for the Sith. This is where the Emperor finally speaks Obi-Wan's name, and he does it immediately. "Oh, I know it was Obi-Wan Kenobi at first," the wicked ruler continued, rubbing his fingers together as if trying to remember. Of course we are familiar with the talent of Obi-Wan Kenobi, especially when it came to training Jedi. He's asserting dominance. He's telling Luke that nothing about his path surprises him, that even Obi-Wan, the Jedi who shaped him, was already cataloged and understood. The Emperor continues, "But alas, Obi-Wan is now dead, I believe. His elder student here saw to that." And with this single sentence, the Emperor does something extraordinarily rare. He credits Obi-Wan's death. He points to Vader not just as an enforcer, but he's proof here. He thinks it's proving the power of Vader, but it's rather proving the strength of Obi-Wan. To Sith, if a being is insignificant, they vanish unnamed, erased. But Sidious does not need to mention Obi-Wan at all, but he does. What Sidious is really saying is this: it took my greatest creation to erase this average Jedi. Standing in that throne room is Luke, and the Emperor is forced to reconcile something uncomfortable. This average Jedi defeated his chosen one at the height of his ascension, survived the Jedi Purge, preserved Jedi philosophy, trained the son who now stands before him, and planted the seed of Vader's redemption. Palpatine can address it all in disdain. He can be annoyed. But in truth, it means Obi-Wan Kenobi was his greatest threat. Obi-Wan wielded true power, a quiet power. A lot of times in the lore we talk about Yoda as the natural opposite of Sidious, but I think it's fair to say that Obi-Wan is just as strong a foil to Sidious, if not stronger in a more subtle way. While Sidious embodies and exemplifies the Sith, Obi-Wan embodies and exemplifies the Jedi. And with that, the holocron comes to a close. But now, I have a question for you. What do you think happens if Sidious actually takes Obi-Wan seriously right from the jump? If he escalates early? What does the galaxy look like if Sidious takes Obi-Wan out? Who trains Anakin? Is he trained at all? And what happens next? The two men operating on completely different philosophies of power, but to me their dichotomy is the most interesting in Star Wars lore. So let me know what you think. And if you're interested in the editor position, be sure to reach out to me using the email below. But as always, may the Force be with you, and have a great day.